Good morning, gentlemen. Another beautiful day out here, walking the dog, making this video. And today I want to talk about waking up from the dream. Yesterday I talked about how we can feel powerless, how we construct a story in our mind, project that onto other people and circumstances, feel trapped by that, and then blame others. It's an exercise in mild insanity. We create this false reality, then step into it, and then try to navigate it, and we're confused as to why things don't work out the way that we think they're supposed to work out. We're holding competing ideas, competing thoughts in our head, and the worst part is we don't realize that we've created it. We don't realize that it's not real. We don't realize that it's a story in our mind that we've just accepted as truth, and we haven't challenged it, and we haven't uh, decided for ourselves that we want to be the creators of of our of our life. That we want to be the artist that creates, not the powerless victim that is just subject to. This is where we move from being a victim to being an owner, to having ownership over our thoughts and ownership over our life. And so uh, today I want to talk to you, like I said, about waking up from the dream, because if we're creating this for ourselves, how do we wake up from that dream? How do we create the thing that we want as opposed to just being subject to? So first, I got to tell you a real quick story to kind of illustrate the point. Last night I had this dream, oddly enough, that I was traveling with some other people in a truck. We were going someplace, and we were kind of in a hurry to get there. At least the driver was, and I don't know that I knew the driver. I didn't really even see the face of the driver. I just knew that the driver was driving, and I was a passenger in that vehicle. And so we all kind of hurried into the vehicle and got on our way. And at some point, I recognized that my dog was not there, right? The dog that you saw in the beginning of this video, Poncho. He's 15 years old. He doesn't hear very well, or at least he has selective hearing. He doesn't see very well. Like, I think he just sees, light and that sort of thing. And he stumbles over things. And so he wasn't in the truck. And so all of a sudden I was like, oh, hey, hold on, my dog's not here. We need to go back to get my dog. And so the driver turned the vehicle around, didn't really say anything. We went back to the place that we had been to see if we could find the dog. Now Pancho wasn't there, and this wasn't a place that we normally were. Right? It was a temporary place, maybe like an Airbnb or just just some place um, that we had stayed for the night. And so the terrain was not familiar, the neighbors were not familiar, and so here's this dog that's now lost, that can't see very well, can't hear very well, doesn't really know the terrain, so he could be anywhere. And what you need to know is that this dog's been lost before in this neighborhood, in my neighborhood here in Austin. He's been lost before. He's just wandered off. He's wandered off when he had eyesight, and he's wandered off when he didn't have eyesight. He's following his nose. He's sniffing his way through the park. He's winding up, under the care of someone who's stumbled upon him and said, "Hey, this dog looks lost." And then through the Nextdoor app, we've been able to locate him and bring him back. But in this dream, we didn't have that. Right? We didn't know the neighborhood. In fact, the complex that we were staying at really wasn't even a neighborhood. It was more like an apartment complex or a unit type situation where you'd have to go from unit to unit. Sometimes on the first floor, sometimes on the second floor, third floor, that sort of thing, right? So the possibility of finding this dog in the dream was concerning. It was worrisome. In fact, there was a point in the dream where I actually started to get fearful, where I started to feel like I wasn't going to see my dog again. And the interesting thing is that I had enough presence of mind, I guess, in the dream, enough consciousness, enough awareness that at some point I realized that this was a dream. I realized that this wasn't real, that it was all part of a made-up story. And in that moment, I said, "Oh, well, hold on. Um, if this is a dream, I'm now getting sucked into this emotion of fear, this emotion of sadness, this this scenario where bad things are happening." And I realized that I didn't want to wake up that way. I didn't want to start my day that way. Right? I chose not to engage in that story anymore. And then, interestingly, my brain said, "Okay, well, how about this? How about you find the dog?" And at some point, then I saw a dog, and there was a dog laying on the ground, and I was like, "Oh, well, that's a dog, but that's not my dog. My dog's black and white." And then my brain said, "Oh, okay. Well, here's a black and white dog laying on the ground, right?" And I was like, "Interesting. Okay, well." So then the story changed from, okay, I found my dog, to my dog is potentially sleeping or my dog is potentially dead. And I was like, oh, well, now I went to approach the dog, and I realized there were two scenarios. There were two options, right? The dog was sleeping and the dog was dead. And Pancho does, he's an old dog, so he does sleep a lot, and that made sense, right? And and then again, I was like, oh, well, hold on, wait a minute. This is still a dream. This is still a dream. Sure, there's a resolution to this dream, an end point where the dog is either sleeping or the dog is dead. But this is still just a dream, and I still choose not to engage in this dream. I still did not choose this story, and my brain is just presenting me options. It's just saying, hey, these are some possibilities. I still get to have a choice about that. And that's where we find ourselves in our life, moving out of that dream and into the current reality of your day, the story of your life. You get to have choices. You get to have thoughts about your thoughts. In fact, you can be the observer of what's going on. And what happens is we have thoughts, we have feelings about those thoughts. Generally, those feelings are negative, right? Nobody ever complains about cookies and puppies and rainbows and stuff. We have these negative thoughts, and then they're so uncomfortable, they're so painful, they're so loud that we get sucked into a reactive mode. We get sucked into trying to make the discomfort and pain go away, that we forget to challenge the story at all. And that's what I want to encourage you to do. That's what I help men do. I help them become the observer of their thoughts. I help them take a step back and observe their pain, the pain of others. I teach them how to have thoughts about their thoughts, how to recognize when they're in the dream, when they've been sucked into a moment of pain, when they're reactive to the story rather than questioning the story and deciding what it is that they want for themselves. That's what I help men do. And it's a practice. It's a practice. It starts with an awareness that this is even a thing. And then through practice we learn to be able to recognize when we're in it. And then we learn to be able to take a breath and step back and observe and ask ourselves, okay, do I want to interact with this? Is this even true? What would be a better life-giving thought? And that changes everything. It changes the situation. In fact, our circumstances and people and circumstances and situation don't even have to change. Our thoughts about those things change, and then change begins to occur immediately. Change starts first in the mind. It's where everything occurs. It's where everything that you see around you, bridges, buildings, roads, um, it started first as an idea in the mind. So that's what I want to invite you into. If you're having trouble navigating this nightmare of a situation that you're in, maybe you're in a divorce, maybe you're in a long-term relationship that's not working out, maybe you're in a job where you feel trapped and micromanaged and you don't like your coworkers or you feel unfulfilled, reach out. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what's going on. Let's talk about your thoughts. Let's talk about what needs to be different in order for you to experience something different. All right, brother, that's what I have for you today. Be good to yourself out there. I'll talk to you soon.